What's going on, guys? I hope you're doing well. Today we're going to be doing my Premier League table predictions for the end of the season. Make sure you comment down below who you think is going to win the league, who you think is going to get relegated, and what you think of my predictions. Starting off in 20th place, we've got Watford, and they've got the second largest squad in the league, which is going to help them if they need any backup for injuries. But the problem with their squad is the fact that they haven't invested enough, and they're still really just a very good championship side. The signing of Josh King, I think, is going to be a bit of a saving grace for them if he pops up with a few goals and could help them higher up the table. But overall, I don't think they've got enough quality to get higher than bottom. Player to watch for Watford this season is Ben Foster. Cycling GK, this one's for you. Now, despite being injured for half of last season, Ben Foster actually managed to maintain a 73.8 saves per game, which is fantastic, and he's going to need to make a lot more saves this season, and I think you're going to see plenty of that with the pressure that Watford are going to face. Could be a good option for your fantasy football teams, but Ben Foster, Cycling GK, is my player to watch. Now, moving on into 18th place, we have got Burnley. I'm sorry, Burnley fans, because I think that you guys do play good defensive football and very solid football. I think Sean Dyche is a fantastic manager, but you haven't been backed by the board. We've gone from the second largest squad in Watford to the smallest squad in the Premier League with just 21 players. That's not even 2 players per position. I think Nathan Collins is a brilliant signing from Stoke, and I think that he could potentially help you guys in staying up. As with your style of play, I feel sorry for Sean Dyche. I feel sorry for Burnley fans. I think this could be a long old season for them, especially if you're plagued by injuries. I think it's going to be really hard for you guys to stay up. Now, my player to watch for Burnley this season is James Tarkowski, and he's going to have a massive season if Burnley want to stay up. He's been an absolute rock at the back for Burnley for the past few seasons, and I think that again this season might be a bit too much, but he's going to, as I say, have to have a fantastic season and really command that defence to try and get something out of them in the bid for Burnley to stay up. But I think that defending is going to be absolutely crucial for Burnley this season, and I think James Tarkowski is going to be central in them getting that right. Now, 18th place, we have got Norwich, and they've made some fantastic signings in the summer. I think that they've made some really good investments, but I think they're still going to struggle this season. I think Daniel Farke's a brilliant manager, and the way he sets the team up is brilliant. They've got exciting players going forward, and they've got a decent back line, but I think the trouble with the signings that they've brought in is they're still relatively unproven in the Premier League, a lot of them. I think Billy Gilmour's going to be really helpful. I think losing Buendia, the 15 goals and 15 assists he got last season, is going to be a massive gap to fill, and they haven't really filled that with the signings that they've brought in. A lot of them are still quite unproven in the Premier League. When you look at Josh Sargent from Wolfsburg, he's a good player, good young player, but is he going to hit it off in the Premier League? I don't think so. With that being said, I think Norwich have actually got a very good core to their side with Timo Pukki, Max Aarons, Todd Cantwell. I think that's going to hold them in good stead and could even keep them up, but I think it might be just a bit too much for them, and I think that they might be going back down. Now, my player to watch this season is Billy Gilmour. And as a Chelsea fan, I've seen a lot of this guy play, and I think he's fantastic. He's shown his quality against top opposition in the Premier League. He had a brilliant Euros with Scotland despite being knocked out in the group stage. He's going to be absolutely key for Norwich this season in their bid to stay up, and it's going to be really interesting actually to see if he can help them even push to stay up into the Premier League. I don't quite think it'll be enough, however, and that's why I've got Norwich in 18th place. Now in 17th place, I've got Southampton. I think losing Danny Ings is going to be so hard for Southampton to recover from. It's a lot of pressure to put on the shoulders of Che Adams and other young attacking players that they've got going forward. They've brought in Amanda Broja from Chelsea. They've brought in Adam Armstrong, who looks like a quality player from Blackburn, but again, he's not proven in the Premier League. That inexperience up front is going to be really difficult for Southampton to try and replace the goals of Danny Ings. I think that they have got a good defensive core, and I think it's not going to be very pretty for them this season. I don't think that they're going to set the league alight, and as I said, that's why they're in 17th place. James Ward-Prowse, he can't do everything on his own. I think he's going to have a really good season, but even if he does, again, that inexperience up front is really going to hurt Southampton, I think. And it could be a slow start, it could be a long season. We're going to have to wait and see what happens, but for me, I think they're going to finish in 17th place. Now, with that being said, my player to watch is Che Adams, because he is, as I've said, got big boots to fill. He got 9 goals and 5 assists last season, and this year he's going to be the main man for Southampton. It's going to be interesting to see if he can push on from that and replace Danny Ings in an effective way. I think he's going to have a fantastic season, and it's going to be interesting to see if he can help them beat the drop, or whether it's going to be too much and whether they even slip down into the relegation zone. Right, I just want to take a moment to quickly ask you guys to please make sure you're liking and subscribing the video, because apparently it really helps me out, and I'd be greatly appreciative if you could do so. So make sure, go down below, like, subscribe, all of that good stuff. back to the video. Now moving into 16th place, we've got Newcastle, and I think that the potential signing of Joe Willock, who looks to be on the verge of signing, is going to be huge for them because he had a brilliant end to last season, and I think it's going to be interesting to see if he can kind of replicate that form and help push Newcastle up the table a bit. If Newcastle stop playing negative football, then they could potentially even be higher, because looking at their squad, they've actually got some really good players, especially going forward, like say Maximin, Almiron, Callum Wilson, and if they can utilise the midfield options that they've got in John Joe Shelby, Isaac Hayden, although he's injured at the moment. If Steve Bruce stops playing this negative football and plays with a bit more freedom up top, there's no reason why they couldn't even finish higher and have a promising season. Now, my player to watch this season is a bit of an obvious one. It's Alan St-Maximin. Keeping him fit is going to be absolutely crucial for their campaign this season. He makes a really negative and conservative team more exciting and more attacking, and he adds flair and he makes stuff happen. And again, if they stop playing this defensive football, or even if they do and they get the ball to St-Maximin, he can make things happen and he could be absolutely crucial to Newcastle potentially pushing up the table. But I think that they're going to finish in 16th place because I just can't see their style of play changing for this season. Moving on into 15th place, it's going to be Crystal Palace, and I don't think it's going to be a brilliant season for them. 67 goals conceded last season and only 41 scored. I think it's a risky appointment with Patrick Vieira because he's been at Nice, he's been at New York City FC, and he is very inexperienced. And last time they opted for an experienced manager, Frank de Boer only lasted 5 games. Now, my player to watch for Crystal Palace this season is Christian Benteke. He scored 10 goals last season, which was one behind their top goal scorer in Wilfried Zaha, 6 of which came in his last 11 games, so he had a fantastic end to last season. It's going to be interesting to see if Patrick Vieira plays him and plays a system that's going to favour him, because if this guy gets chances, he's going to put them away. I think there's no reason why he can't improve on last season's tally and maybe even get closer to 15 to 20 goals this season, if Palace have a good season. But as I said, I think it's going to be a bit of a long season for Crystal Palace, and I think that they're going to struggle. I don't think it's going to go completely well for Patrick Vieira, and it's going to be interesting to see if he actually lasts the whole season. With that being said, Crystal Palace, I don't think you're going to go down, but I don't think it's going to be pretty. That's why you're in 15th place. 14th place now, we've got Wolves, and this is going to be a bit of a tricky season for them because it's a bit of a transitional period. They've lost Nuno Espirito Santo to Tottenham. Their goalkeeper Rui Patricio has gone to Roma. Losing Nuno is going to be a really difficult void to fill because he's been their manager for 4 years. He's had time to induct his philosophy and create his team. And with him leaving, I don't think that they've actually really strengthened enough to improve on last season. I think Raul Jimenez coming back is going to be a breath of fresh air, especially if he can hit the ground running. But I think overall they haven't, as I say, strengthened enough. They haven't replaced Rui Patricio yet. And I think that's really going to hurt them if they play with a worse off goalkeeper, because I think Rui Patricio was responsible for a lot of the points that they got last season. Don't get me wrong, Wolves have got a brilliant team, but you need a good goalkeeper to earn you those extra points. I still think there's quality in the squad for them to finish mid-table. I don't think it's going to be the most exciting season for Wolves fans, and that's why I've got them in 14th place. Now, my player to watch for Wolves this season is Ruben Neves. He's had solid season after solid season and really impressed for Wolverhampton in the past few years. And I think that with the possibility of João Moutinho potentially moving to Manchester United or moving elsewhere, I think that he's going to be really instrumental in being the heartbeat of Wolves' team, in transferring the ball from attack to defence in the way that he has been for the past couple of seasons. And I think that there's going to be a lot of responsibility put on this young man's shoulders to keep on making sure that Wolves are ticking under the new management. 13th place now, and we have got Brighton, and I absolutely love Graham Potter. I'm a big fan of his, and I think he's a really fantastic coach. Moving on more specifically to the squad of Brighton, I think they've really got an impressive foundation to their squad. I think when you look at players like Lamptey, Basuma, Dunk, Trossard, they're all quality players who could so easily push this Brighton team high up the table, and I think that they will. Their only problem really is the striking option. They created so many chances last season but just couldn't score. My player to watch for Brighton this season is Lewis Dunk, because I think he's a fantastic centre-back and he's going to have a lot of pressure on his shoulders now that Ben White has left. And Brighton have as of yet not made a replacement signing for Ben White. However, I think Lewis Dunk, the kind of prowess that he has in the box and the leadership that he has and the high expectations that he will demand of his centre-back pairing, I think that's going to be really useful for whoever they get as Ben White's replacement, because Lewis Dunk isn't going to take anything less than the quality he demands. Brighton have got a lot of work to do in making sure that their standards don't slip this season, and fixing their goal scoring problem and fixing that centre-back hole that Ben White has left is going to be their 2 biggest problems to fix on this season. I think they're going to be alright, and I think that they're going to actually have quite an impressive season. That's why I've got them in 13th place. 12th place, I've got Brentford. and they've been knocking on the door for the Premier League for the past 3 years. They've got brilliant owners, they play quick, fluid, expressive attacking football. They've scored 78 and 79 goals in their last 2 seasons in the Championship, and I think that we could potentially see another Leeds here of a newly promoted side absolutely taking the Premier League by storm. Their transfer business has been good, and I think it's going to be enough to make sure that they don't slip down the table as a result of it. And I think they're going to have a fantastic breakthrough season in the Premier League. So Brentford fans, you should be really, really excited. Christophe Ajer is going to be my player to watch for Brentford this season. He's just come in from Celtic after winning 3 leagues there. I think he's going to be a brilliant centre-back partnership with Pontus Jansson, who's already a fantastic centre-back. He's a regular international for Norway, and I think that experience is going to be invaluable for Brentford as they're looking to try and improve on that 58 goals conceded tally from last season. Defensive solidity is going to be the most important thing for Brentford this season, and I think Christophe Ajer is going to be a fantastic centre-back option for securing that. Now, moving on into 11th place, we've got West Ham. After a fantastic season last year and qualifying for Europe, I feel like their squad of 25 players is just too thin to be able to compete in the Premier League, the Cups and the Europa League. As a result of that, I think that their league form is going to suffer massively, especially towards the back end of the season. The players in their squad have got a lot of quality, and I think the backup option in goal of Areola is a really solid option. But it's going to be really hard for West Ham to maintain the standards that they did last season and reach the same heights with a squad that is so small. Now, my player to watch for West Ham this season is Ben Rama. He's had a fantastic pre-season. He's bagged himself a couple of worldies that have gone around on social media, and overall he looks to have sort of completed his game, because last season he showed glimpses of being a fantastic attacking outlet. But I think the only thing that was really missing from his game was that final product. He could take players on, but whether he managed to get the pass away, get the shot away, or even managed to create something of use to West Ham, that was lacking a bit last season. They haven't been able to re-sign Jesse Lingard since he's gone back to Man United on loan, and I think Ben Rama is going to have a really good season in filling that gap that Jesse Lingard has left. Now, moving into the top 10, we have got Everton. They've added a lot more depth to their squad, which I think is going to help them, but they haven't added any quality. It's still the same starting 11 as last year, and I think Rafael Benitez faces a hell of a lot of pressure in winning over those Everton fans. I think he's a quality manager, but I think the fans are going to be demanding in excess of what I think he's going to produce. I don't know if he's going to last a full season. I think he should, because, as I said, he's a good manager, but he faces a hell of a lot of pressure, as I say, to try and win these Everton fans on side and convince them that he is the man for the job. I think that in a system under Rafael Benitez, I think Everton aren't going to be as exciting necessarily going forward, but I certainly don't think that they're going to be so poor that they fall into the bottom half of the table. It's going to be mid-table mediocrity for Everton this season, which is why I've got them slap bang in the middle in 10th place. Now, my player to watch for Everton this season is Jordan Pickford. I think he's going to carry on his form from the Euros, and I think it's going to be tricky for him to try and iron out a few creases in his game and fix up on a few errors that he makes, because he is quite an error-prone goalkeeper, which worried a lot of England fans. But with that being said, I think this year is going to be a real statement year for Jordan Pickford, and I think that this is going to be the year where people start to sit up and take note of how good of a goalkeeper he really is. Now, moving on into the 9th place, we've got Arsenal, and I might be being a bit harsh because they've got a really promising young squad and they've made some good investments in the summer. Ben White is a magnificent signing for Arsenal, and I think that whilst making them more secure in defence, he's also going to allow them to be a lot more creative from the back with his forward passing play and his ability to take the ball forward and drive it into midfield. Arteta is slowly but surely moulding this Arsenal team into his vision, and I think that if they can manage to string a couple of decent results together and those strikers get firing in the way that they really should, I think that there's no reason why they can't finish higher up the table. There's still going to be patience needed from the Arsenal fans, and I don't think it's going to be a bad season. I don't think it's going to be as disappointing as last season. As I said, there's no reason really why Arsenal shouldn't and couldn't really be finishing higher. But for me, I think that they're going to struggle a little bit. I think it's going to take some time. As we keep seeing with Arsenal, this is a time-consuming project. And for me, I think they're going to finish in 9th place. My player to watch for Arsenal this season is Bukayo Saka. And I've fallen in love with this guy over the summer, especially after he missed the penalty, and the amount of support that he's got off the back of the Euros. I think that's really going to drive him on to have a fantastic season. He's so versatile, so creative, and he's a kind of player that plays for the badge, and I think Arsenal need that at the moment. Last season, a lot of people started to sit up and take note. If they didn't throughout the season, they definitely did at the Euros, and this season is going to be a real statement to the rest of the Premier League at just how good Bukayo Saka is. Now, moving on into 8th place, we've got Aston Villa, and obviously the biggest headline surrounding Aston Villa this season has been the loss of Jack Grealish. But I think they've actually managed to invest the money really, really well. Emi Buendia, Leon Bailey are two fantastic and dynamic wingers. If Leon Bailey, although he's not Premier League proven, if he can do it in the Premier League, that's going to be a brilliant signing for them. Danny Ings is also another fantastic investment, and he's going to be a dangerous striking option, whether he plays with or as another option to Ollie Watkins. Aston Villa now have a lot of depth going forward. Dean Smith has got them playing this really nice, fluid attacking football that's exciting, and I think that paired with the defensive solidity that they've got at the back, with Emi Martinez in goal, Konsa, Tyrone Mings. Altogether, I think that Aston Villa are going to have a really strong season. I don't quite think that they have enough quality to get higher than 8th place, but I still think 8th place for Aston Villa is a massive step in the right direction, and there's no reason why this season or in seasons to come they can't push up and finish higher up the table. Now, my player to watch for Aston Villa this season is Emi Buendia. 30 goal contributions in the Championship last season. Overall fantastic player, and he turned down Arsenal for this move, reportedly anyway. If you're a target for Arsenal, you're clearly a fantastic player, and I think it's a real statement that he's opted for Villa over Arsenal. I think he's going to have a fantastic season, and I think he's really going to be instrumental in Aston Villa pushing high up into the league table. 7th place, we've got Leeds. Now, in theory, teams are going to be more aware, more understanding of how Leeds play, but I think that their outstanding fitness compared to other teams in the league are going to be still what makes the difference. I still think that despite knowing how Leeds are going to play, I don't think that they're going to suffer second season syndrome. I think that they're still going to dominate in the same way that they have. They're still going to be scoring floods of goals. They're still going to be conceding floods of goals. I think one of the only problems with Leeds really is the fact that, a bit similar to last season, they haven't really strengthened in a way that their first team is still made up of the majority of the players who actually got them promoted from the Championship. However, that could potentially be a blessing in disguise, because Marcelo Bielsa has been able to influence these players so they understand his system. I don't think that they're going to struggle this season, and I think that they're going to push on and could even potentially push into the European places should they keep on getting these good results. Again, I think maybe if they can be a bit more solid at the back, that would really help, but I think that when you look at the team and the way that they play and how fit they are, I think it's going to be more of the same from Leeds, and I think it's going to be very exciting to be a Leeds fan as always. My player to watch for Leeds is Rafinha, a dynamic, attacking, quick player with flair who can beat their man down the wing, who can find an assist, who can find a goal here and there, and I think his numbers are going to only improve from last season, and I think that he's going to be instrumental once again for Leeds' push up the table. Now, moving on into 6th place, we've got Tottenham, and this one could be a bit of a controversial one because I think a lot more people would potentially see this rebuilding year as more of a negative thing for Tottenham. However, I think Nuno Espirito Santo is a brilliant capture for the club. I think he's probably the perfect man for the job and could potentially find himself being a new Maurizio Pochettino, and the way that he can mould this club and build this team in a similar way to how he built Wolverhampton into being a brilliant Premier League side. The new signings that they've brought in, Romano from Atalanta, potentially Martinez to replace Harry Kane. Lautaro Martinez is a brilliant goal scorer in the Serie A. Whether he can transfer those skills from Serie A to the Premier League remains to be seen. It might not hit the ground running straight away for Nuno, for Martinez, for these new players, but I think that they've got an impressive core as it is anyway, and if Nuno can get the best out of these players, which I think he will, come around the early middle part of the season, you're going to find that they're going to be gelling together. I think that once they pick up a few decent results, they're not going to look back and they're really going to push up the table. My player to watch for Tottenham this season is Son Heung-min. There's going to be a lot of pressure put on his shoulders if and when Harry Kane leaves, because essentially he's going to be the main man, the player that all the other players are going to be looking to in the team to inspire them to make things happen. I think he's going to be able to handle the pressure. He's been doing the same thing for the past couple of seasons. He's just been in Harry Kane's shadow a little bit. I think he's only going to start scoring more goals, providing more for his teammates, because there is quality in this Tottenham team, and I think he's going to impress a lot of people in Tottenham, upsetting the odds and finishing so high up the table. Now, moving on into 5th place, we have got Leicester, and they have strengthened fantastically in the summer. They've brought in Daka, they've brought in Ryan Bertrand, and really added a lot more depth to their squad, which I think that they needed to be able to compete in the league, to compete in the cups, and compete in the Europa League for the second season in a row. This season they're going to be looking to end the disappointment of the last couple of seasons of just missing out on top 4, and unfortunately I think that they just don't quite have the quality of the top 4 to make it in. They could easily upset my predictions, they could easily break into the top 4. should any of the top 4 that I've got not underperform. And the player to watch for Leicester this season is Kelechi Ianacho. He's going to have a lot of pressure on his shoulders for a 24-year-old. I think this is the season now where he really is going to have to stake a claim for taking over the reins of Jamie Vardy. And I think when you look at Ianacho and the way that he finished last season, I think this one could be a very similar season for him in the sense that once he starts scoring, I think he's going to be really difficult to stop. It's going to be like a snowball effect, and I think that he could even potentially make a claim for the Golden Boot. It's going to be another exciting season for Leicester again, and you've got the European dream to be thinking of again. But with that being said, I still think it's going to be difficult for them to break into that top 4. But I could be wrong. That's what the Premier League's all about. Now moving into the top 4, we have got Manchester United. Manchester United are a quality team, and they've got the quality in their side, especially if they get the signing of Varane over the line. They have got the quality to potentially even push higher up the table and challenge for the league. I think that this season is going to be so close in the top 4 that I think there's going to be a matter of points between 1st and 4th. Man United have got a good sized squad. The new signings that they brought in Rafael Varane, who will solidify that defence, which was quite leaky last season. Jaden Sancho, another marquee signing, who's going to really impress down that wing. They've managed to keep a hold of Paul Pogba, which I think is fantastic for this season alone. Whether he signs a new deal and stays for even longer remains to be seen. Focusing on this season alone, I think that they're going to struggle against those top 3 teams. Thomas Tuchel's really hard to beat. Jurgen Klopp is a fantastic coach, as is Pep Guardiola. And it's nothing against Ollie, because I've been a big fan of Ollie since he came to the club. And I'm so glad that Manchester United have given him the time that I believe he deserves. There's no reason why he couldn't kick on and exceed my expectations and my predictions. But for me, I think that they're going to struggle against those top 6 teams, especially with the way that they've strengthened as well. And I think it's going to be a tough season for all the teams in the top 4. But I've got Manchester United to finish the bottom of the pile in 4th place. My player to watch for the season is Harry Maguire. And he's received so much stick, so much unnecessary stick in the past couple of years that's really got on my nerves. And I'm so glad that he's starting to prove those doubters wrong. Once he's partnered with Varane, I think they're going to become an iconic centre-back partnership duo, especially in this league alone, but in Manchester United's history as well. He was fantastic at the Euros, earning him a place in the team of the tournament. Manchester United were relying on him to be so solid at the back last season, and without him, they would have conceded so much more. He's a leader. He's exactly what Manchester United are crying out for, and I think that this season people are going to sit up and take note of just how fantastic a centre-back Harry Maguire is. Now moving into 3rd place, we've got Liverpool, and I think that they're just going to miss out on the top 2, but once again could easily exceed or fall short of my expectations. They've got a massive squad of 32 players, all of which are quality players. They've got great backup in every position, but with that being said, they've just lost Andy Robertson, and I'm not quite sure if Tsimikas has got the quality enough to fill that void effectively. So whether they sign a replacement or whether the injury of Robertson isn't as bad as first feared, that's going to be crucial for Liverpool in pushing up this season. On the topic of injuries, Liverpool have got Van Dijk back. They've got Joe Gomez coming back. They've got all of these players that they were missing last season coming back into the first team. Trent Alexander-Arnold also recovering. And I feel like a lot of these players are almost going to feel like new signings. What you remember from last season is Liverpool went through so many centre-back partnerships. And if they keep Van Dijk fit, if they can utilise Konate in an effective manner, Joe Gomez, as well as the players that had to fill in from last season, they've now got wealths and wealths of Premier League experience. There's no excuses now for Liverpool falling short in that defensive area. My big concern with Liverpool is that front 3, and I know that's a bit of a weird one because that's arguably their strongest point of the team. I think Mohamed Salah's fine. I think that Sadio Mane is still a quality player, but he showed glimpses of dropping off a little bit short towards the back end of last season. And Roberto Firmino, I personally think they need to replace him. I think it's time for him to go. He's been a brilliant player for them, but again, he's just falling shorter and shorter, and now I think is actually costing Liverpool the chance of scoring more goals and creating more chances. He may make me eat my words this season, but that's just how I feel when I look at the Liverpool squad. I think it's going to be a strong season for Liverpool. It's going to be interesting to see where they finish, but for me, I've got them in 3rd place. Now, my player to watch for Liverpool this season is Harvey Elliott, and he's been having a fantastic pre-season. In their game of just a couple of days ago, he was hailed as being the best player on the pitch, and for such a young player, that's just so exciting for Liverpool fans. I don't think he's going to get the game time of Mane, Salah and Jota. He's actually going to be behind them in the pecking order. However, there's no reason why he couldn't come off the bench and really stake a claim for being a really useful squad option for them. Don't be surprised to see him popping up with the odd goal and assist here and there, because I think his numbers are going to be pretty good this season, and I think that it's going to be a really massive breakthrough season where people sit up and take notice of just how good a player he is. Now, moving in to 2nd and 1st place, we've got Chelsea and we've got Man City. Are Chelsea going to win the league? Yes, they are. I've got Manchester City to finish in second and Chelsea to win the Premier League. We'll start off with Chelsea. They've got the largest squad in the Premier League. They've got all of these loan signings coming back. Loftus-Cheek is going to add a lot more depth in that central midfield option. The jewel in the crown in this Chelsea team is Romelu Lukaku. Tuchel has got such a hard-to-beat system at the moment, and the one thing we were really lacking was goals. We're so solid at the back. We're so hard to break down. It's almost like a back six when Jorginho drops back and our wing-backs drop back. It's so hard to penetrate. Thomas Tuchel's got such a brilliant record against all of the top six managers. He hasn't lost yet. I think that us winning the Champions League last season is really going to spur us on. And the one thing to bear in mind with Chelsea is last season we showed that we're a great cup team. We can win fixtures, but it's all about consistency when it comes to winning the Premier League. And that for me is going to be the biggest thing to focus on. Can we keep that consistency throughout the whole season? And I think that we can. My player to watch for Chelsea this season is my favourite Chelsea player of the lot. It's Reece James. It's a bit of a weird one because I know obviously a lot of people love Mason Mount. They love all of these more exciting attacking players, but Reece James is just fantastic. He's so solid at the back. He's brilliant going forward, although admittedly he's still got a lot of work to do in being more effective in that area. But I just think his all-round game is so brilliant, and I think he's really unlucky to not have seen more game time at the Euros. He's showing his versatility in being able to play on the right of a back five and also playing on the right of a back three. So that versatility is going to be absolutely key for Chelsea if we suffer any injury problems. But I think that with the depth that we've got, with the tactical setup of Thomas Tuchel and with the goals that are going to be coming from Romelu Lukaku, I think we're going to be really, really hard to stop, and that's why I think we're going to win the Premier League. Moving down into the controversial second place of Manchester City. They're going to be everyone's favourites. They're probably the bookies' favourites. They've got an embarrassment of riches when it comes to their squad depth. The £100 million signing of Jack Grealish makes that already frightening attack of Manchester City even more terrifying. My thinking behind Manchester City in second place is for two reasons. One of which is the fact that I think as the season goes on, I think that Pep really is going to want that Champions League, especially when you look at PSG and how they've strengthened, arguably the best team in Europe right now. And I don't think he'll necessarily sacrifice the Premier League in an intentional manner, but I think that what you'll find is him really prioritising the Champions League, which could potentially harm their league form. The second point is the head-to-heads. Now, he's shown that he can beat Klopp, he's shown that he can beat Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, but they were still lacking that consistency against the top six last season. And I think going back to Thomas Tuchel, Pep Guardiola, in the 3 games that they've played since being at Chelsea and Manchester City together, Pep Guardiola has yet to beat Thomas Tuchel, which is why I think that we're going to have that extra edge over Manchester City. Jack Grealish makes him even more scary, but I just think Chelsea are going to be so hard to break down this season that teams, even with all of this fluidity and this attacking prowess, is really still going to struggle. Don't get me wrong, they have the quality to beat Chelsea. They by all means have the best squad in the Premier League to win the Premier League, but you can only field 11 players, and it always comes down to what those 11 players on the pitch can do and how the team's set up and how they play on the day. And for me, I think Chelsea are going to have that edge over Manchester City. The only question with Chelsea is whether or not they can keep the continuity going throughout the whole season, which Manchester City have shown they can do. They've got experience in winning Premier League titles and lasting the full duration of the season in a really competitive manner, which is going to make this top 4 so exciting. Even though that I've got Chelsea in first place, they could just as easily finish 4th. Once again, this top 4 is so exciting and so closely matched that I think it's going to be a really exciting season. I don't think that Man City are going to run away with it in the way that everyone's expecting and in the way that they have. As I say, I think it's going to be really exciting, and we're going to have a really good Premier League to watch. And now finally, my player to watch for Manchester City is Ferran Torres. He scored 4 goals at the Euros and had an overall brilliant campaign. Don't expect him to get the game time of Jack Grealish and Raheem Sterling, but when he does play, he's going to be fantastic, and he's really going to show the league what he's all about, either securing himself a move elsewhere or staking a regular place in the first team. I think he's going to bag loads of goals in Manchester City's race for the Premier League title, and overall just have a fantastic, outstanding season. Moving on to the final part of the video, I'm going to be going through who I think the top goal scorer is, the player of the season, the young player of the season, and the Golden Glove. And we'll start with the Golden Glove because for me, I think that's the most obvious one of the lot, and I think it's going to be Edouard Mendy. Regardless of whether or not Chelsea do or don't win the Premier League, Chelsea do not like conceding goals, and what Thomas Tuchel has added once again is this solidity in defence. Edouard Mendy is a fantastic goalkeeper. He's shown that since coming in, but he's not going to have a lot of work to do, and when he's called up upon, he's going to be able to make those saves that make Chelsea solid in defence and make sure that we keep those clean sheets, and I think he's going to get the Golden Glove. Now, moving on from the Golden Glove, we're going to go straight to the Golden Boot. And for me, I think there's only one player that springs to mind as a player who's going to absolutely take the Premier League by storm when it comes to goals. and it's not Harry Kane. For me, I think it's going to be Mohamed Salah. He's shown season after season after season that this guy loves to score Premier League goals. The messy situation with Harry Kane at the start of the season is really going to impact him. If he does end up moving to Manchester City, I think it's going to take him some time to gel. I don't by any means think he's going to be far off Mohamed Salah, but I just think that with that knock of what's happened at the beginning of the season, the whole speculation about him going around in the media, I think that's going to affect him mentally. I think that moving to a new club is obviously going to affect a new player mentally, and I think that he's still going to have a fantastic season, but not the same season as Mohamed Salah. Liverpool start their season off against Norwich, and if there's one thing about Liverpool versus Norwich, there's always goals, and I think that that's really going to set the precedent for Liverpool and for Mohamed Salah this season. I think Liverpool are going to score bags of goals, and Mo Salah is going to be right at the heart of that. Young player of the season is where we're going to move to next. For me, it's a toss-up between Ferran Torres and Bukayo Saka. Both of these players are going to take the league by storm, and I think that Bukayo Saka is going to have the edge over Ferran Torres in terms of game time, but I think that in terms of flair and attacking input on the team, I can't help but feel like Ferran Torres sort of takes that crown. But out the two of them, I'm going to go with Bukayo Saka. I think that after the Euros that he's had, he's already going to have the popularity from the people that vote for him. And I think that story of him being kicked when he was down and then rising up, I think he's going to score goals. I think he's going to get loads of assists. So he's not going to be an unworthy winner by any means. And that is why I think he's going to get the PFA Young Player of the Year. Now, moving from the Young Player of the Year into the Player of the Year, 3 players spring to mind. And they are N'Golo Kante, Bruno Fernandez, and Mohamed Salah. Starting off with N'Golo Kante, they say that 90% of the world is covered by water and the rest is covered by N'Golo Kante, and there is a reason for that. He's instrumental in Chelsea's transitional play, making sure that we win the ball back effectively and start an attack in a quick manner, helping us counter-attack, and will ultimately be so key in Chelsea pushing for the title this season and, in my prediction, winning the title. Moving on to Bruno Fernandez, I think that Manchester United, as the rest of the top 4, are going to have a fantastic season, and he is going to be the heartbeat of that. He's going to score loads of goals, he's going to get loads of assists, and I think that he's going to be so instrumental in Manchester United potentially pushing for the league title. He's a player that can single-handedly win you games, and I think that with that earns you the prestige of at least being acknowledged for some of these kind of awards and certainly being up there as a contender. But for me, I think that Mohamed Salah is going to be the player to win the PFA Player of the Year. I think that as a top goal scorer, those individual accolades win you awards like this. Much like Bruno Fernandez and N'Golo Kante, he's going to be so key for Liverpool pushing up the table this season. If he stays fit throughout the whole season and manages to really stake a claim for this award, I think that there's no reason why he can't win it. Once again, I think these personal accolades of top goal scorer are what win you these kind of awards. Being the brilliant player he is and the fantastic goal scorer he is, there is no reason why I don't think he can be the PFA Player of the Year. Anyway guys, let me know what you think. I've really enjoyed doing these kind of videos of late. There's plenty more to come throughout the season. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, and let me know what you guys think. If you think I've been too biased in putting Chelsea so high up the table, if your club is lower down than you think that they should be, let me know in the comments below. I want to read what you guys think, get a different point of view. But ultimately, I want to hear what you guys have to think about what I've said. You know, who do you think are going to win the Premier League? Who do you think's going down? Who do you think the Player of the Year is going to be? Or let me know all of this stuff in the comments below. Let me know what you think about what I've said. Take care, look after yourselves. Peace and love.